Moving past the shame of being a male survivor. Thank you.
How's everybody holding up? When Lyria first approached me, I was like, yeah, this is cool, I'll do it. And then the last month, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? So I've told my story a billion times on my podcast, and told it many times before, but there's something different when you say it in front of people sitting in front of you. So I got my notes here. I'm going to read it if that's cool with you guys, because if I don't, I'm going to go off on a tangent. Matt's going to have to push me off the stage quicker. So anyhow, it's a fall afternoon. A young boy is playing outside in the yard. He's between the ages of 5 and 10. He hears the sound of a motorcycle up the street. He's always loved motorcycles ever since his older brother began riding that Honda CB750. He knew one day he would ride too, but he wanted to ride now. That sound was so cool, and he wanted to be cool. He wanted to fit in more than anything. He decided to check this out for himself, and quickly realized as he began walking up the street, hey, that's Kevin, the teenage son of his parents' friends for years. His dad was a mechanic at the garage down the street and knew mom and dad very well. Kevin has a mini bike, a super cool blue color with chrome handlebars and a nice big seat. That was the coolest thing ever. As he continued to get closer, Kevin waved to him several times, going round and round a homemade dirt track in the field behind his house, behind the old shed that smelled of gasoline. That smell of gasoline. The shed that was so dirty, with half-rotted floors on the board, power tools hanging on the wall, and a place in the corner where the mini bike was stored. The shed that had a sink in the corner that was always so dirty. The shed behind the house, which had a small extension room built on the back, that musty smell, the orange shag carpet, the lamp that barely lit the room, that old white couch with a small brown and orange leaf pattern, that old couch with the wooden arms that only partially covered the fabric, the old couch with big pillows made of the same scratchy material, and a big button in the middle, a full-size mirror in the corner, the room that was so quiet nobody would ever hear, even if they were home. But of course, nothing ever happened when anybody was home, because he was smarter than that. Remember, this is our secret, he would say, our secret place in the shed and in the house. You remember what I said about telling someone else about our secret, don't you? This is what cool people do, and if you want to be cool and hang out with me, you have to keep my secret. Nobody else will understand. They won't get how our friendship is. They don't know what cool kids do these days. You want to fit in, don't you? You want to say that you hang out with a cool teenager who can drive and rides a motorcycle, who wears cool clothes and has a cool haircut and always carries that big purple comb in his back pocket, just like you want to do. Well, this is what you have to do so you can say that I'm your friend. I'll teach you everything you want to know about life, but you have to do this for me first and whenever I tell you. If you tell anyone, you won't get any more rides on my mini bike, no more fun afternoons hanging out. I'll never talk to you again, I'll always make fun of you every time I see you. Besides, if you tell anyone, they won't believe you anyways. Our parents have been friends for years. They'll take my word over yours. You're just a kid. So just be quiet and make sure you come back again and again whenever you see me outside. This is what I want, and this is what I know you want. Thank goodness for that little boy's stuffed animal, a polar bear named Snowball. She was so soft and secure and fit perfectly in his arms as he ran upstairs after every visit to the shed or the house, shutting his door, grabbing Snowball and rocking back and forth for what seemed like hours. Always saying, I'm fine, nothing's wrong, anytime somebody asked what was going on or why he'd been crying. Yes, Kevin gave me more rides on his mini bike. He gave me iced tea. We ate and we had a good time, he would tell people. As luck would have it, if you can call it that, eventually that little boy stopped going down to the shed, stopped going down to the room in the back of the house. He stopped listening for the sounds of the mini bike. Why is a bit of a mystery still, even today. But the damage was already done, and little did he realize how much damage that was. So he kept silent, not ever breathing a word to anyone, out of sight, out of mind, just try and forget about it. Fast forwarding to middle school. Hey kid, why does your hair look stupid? Why are you wearing such ridiculous looking clothes? Why do you talk so funny? What's with that retainer you have to wear? What are you, some kind of reject? Hey Matt, are you on your way to those learning disability classes again? What are you, stupid? You must have to go to that special trailer for the kids who are dumb. Well, those learning disability classes would eventually pay off in some ways years down the road. He questioned every day why he was stuck there away from everyone else. He was already different, Why did his parents have to go and make things even worse by sending him to the special trailer? Just another bullseye painted on his back, just another locker to be pushed into, or a fight to get into. At this point, just pile it on, why not? Almost daily, or anytime he was outside of the safety of a small group of friends, he was a target. Mocked, ridiculed, laughed at, pushed into lockers, not picked for teams in gym class. He kept quiet day after day, year after year. His parents would try and tell him there was nothing wrong with him. He just needed to toughen up and face it. That's the way the world is. All the while, he knew better. He knew he was broken. Standing up for himself was pointless. Nobody would stand up with him, and all that got him was more trouble with the other kids who would use him as a target. Stay silent, just try and blend in, and maybe today it won't be as bad, he would tell himself. He would beg his parents nearly every morning to let him stay home from school or to do something about it. Of course, that wouldn't have worked anyways, because having your parents fight your battles as a teenager was almost as worse as fighting them yourself. To say that his childhood and teenage years up until about 17 were a nightmare was an understatement. The damage was done and had left his mark in ways he wouldn't realize for much of the next 25 years. He tried college and dropped out after the first semester and decided he would rather be alone in a job than to stay in school and work for another 4 years, where it would be even harder than high school and he would probably just fail anyways. He decided he would go be alone and be a truck driver. That way he could be free from the hurt and pain of everybody else and just live his life in solitude. Unfortunately, the bullying, the abuse from his childhood, and everything else was starting to manifest itself in extreme anxiety and worry. He couldn't drive a truck for fear of the load being damaged or being late. He had zero self-esteem. His work ethic was filled with worry and fear over anything and everything. His life was one big ball of anxiety from one day to the next, rarely finding any peace. He got married in his early 20s and divorced by his late 20s. Although coming out of it with 2 beautiful children, the damage done previously was compounding itself in the form of trust issues, fear, anxiety, lack of money management, and ultimately a devastating end to the marriage, for which he completely blamed himself, regardless of the fact that his wife left him standing at the doorstep with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old as she left for somebody on the internet. Alcohol became his friend, spending nearly every evening at the bar, working before third shift, internalizing and compounding the pain with self-blame, and worst of all, not being able to seek out help because he didn't even know that was an option. This is just how I am, he thought. I'll figure it out. It's just life. This merry-go-round went on for years until he met the person who would fix all of that, a young girl who made all of his dreams come true. Beautiful, fun, outgoing, and popular. Now he would finally put the past behind him. Everyone said it was too soon. She's too young. You're not ready yet. You need to wait. You need more help. He knew better, though. The next 12 years would ultimately tell the tale. Another wonderful child amidst a life filled with financial struggle, including bankruptcy, more trust issues, a deteriorating family life that was already stretched thin to begin with. Before he knew it, the family get-together stopped and he was completely relying on her for his happiness and well-being. That became too much, and it was Groundhog Day all over again. After 12 years, he was alone, broken, and at rock bottom again. Finally, something had to give. He had to get himself fixed. He knew he was broken. All of his problems were his fault, and he was ready to own up to them and do whatever it took to get his life back together. No more pain. It was time to figure out how to get his life fixed. At 41, it's now or never. I'm the broken one. After decades of shame, hurt, zero self-esteem, and people telling him he needed help, he was finally doing it. After all, nothing else worked, so why not try this again? Therapy. Wait, therapy again? Would this be like that therapist who he was forced to see as a teenager, the one who divulged everything that he told without his permission? The sexual abuse, the bullying, all of the hurt, the therapist who ultimately betrayed his trust by telling his story to family members without coherent consent. A damaged kid, not in a solid state of mind, was pushed deeper into silence and shame. The church would soon find out, so every family member and friend he'd ever known would know his secrets that nobody should ever know, and a story that he had a right to tell whenever he wanted to tell. What choice do I have now? I'll give this one more shot. What's left to lose? I can't possibly be hurt any worse, feel any more broken, be any worse off than I am right now. Maybe this time will be different. I'll try. As God would have it, not luck, a broken soul began to put the pieces together and make sense of all the hurt and pain. In the hands of a trauma-informed, trusted therapist, over the next 2 years, he would visit the safety of a second-floor office with a semi-comfortable couch and pillows that would be by his side every session, he began to heal, slowly but surely. Once a week, many times twice a week, sitting in that office trying to make sense of what happened, getting in touch with his feelings and emotions that had been pushed down to the bottom of the closet in his mind, stuffed away in his shoebox and buried under virtual laundry. Little by little, as tough as it was, and as gut-wrenchingly painful as each session felt, he was making progress, she would tell him. He didn't really see it, but was willing to give her the benefit of the doubt, because after all, what did he know? He was the broken one on the couch. After 6 months of self-esteem and relationship work, during a random writing assignment in a session, he let it slip that he was a survivor of trauma. Of course, she already knew this from his intake forms, but also understood that until the time was right, working on that part of his past wouldn't yield any type of positive results. That was the day when everything kicked into high gear. You are a survivor, and that is amazing, she would text him when he left the office. The sessions didn't get any easier. If anything, they were even more difficult. But it was all making sense right now. How the sexual abuse was the catalyst for the bullying, the shame, the blame, the self-esteem problems, the food issues, the failed marriages. Everything that plagued him his entire life was traced back to those events between 5 and 10. The light bulbs were going off all over the place in his head. Painful as the realizations were, this was finally what he needed to deal with in order to take his life back. He started writing in a personal journal all of his worries, fears, therapy session notes. It was all coming out of his head, and the shame was slowly but surely beginning to dissipate. He began to research survivor groups online and discovered a whole world online of survivors of all types of trauma coming together in Twitter chats and blogs and videos and Facebook groups. He wasn't alone, for the first time, not by a long shot. He still had much to learn about being a survivor, but at least he had the company and support of other people in his journey. The journal turned into a blog, which turned into videos, which turned into a podcast. He was giving a voice to that little boy, that inner child, that young teen who suffered all the abuse, no longer being silent and living in shame. He was healing and could see the gradual shift in his life through writing and sharing his story. It was like a snowball effect. He threw himself into every trauma recovery book, every video he could find, every social media chat. He was a survivor, and that was indeed amazing. Throughout the coming years, his true calling was coming into focus. He needed to give back to help others in a way that he was helped. He needed to find a way to help others come out of the darkness and into a world where they were accepted and loved and not judged, the world that he was finally experiencing for the first time. In 2018, the time was right to take a leap of faith and leave his safe, steady job as an engineer of 17 years and venture into the world of anxiety and survivor coaching, into a future with much less certainty than he'd been used to, but with the knowledge that he was going to make a difference in people's lives and continue to heal. Everyone deserves to heal and experience life-changing benefits that working with a therapist can do. Nobody does this alone. I can't imagine where I'd be right now without taking that step and asking for help. All it takes is just asking, and there's a world of support out there for everyone if you just look for it. But it won't do any good unless you get to a point of saying, I'm not ashamed that I need help, and you might just be surprised at what happens.
Very good. So we are going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back together, and we're going to have Jimmy